You're listening to From Our Lens, a podcast for photographers and brides where we dive into all things weddings.
Whether you're a pro behind the lens or a bride-to-be, we've got you covered.
Join in on the conversation and take it from the gals who have been to a wedding or two.
Grab your camera or your wedding planner and tune in for our hot wedding takes. Let's focus on your forever.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Sarah. We're back with another episode.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We have a really good hot topic this week.
I know, I'm excited. I think we can talk about this for a long time, so we'll try and keep it chill.
We're talking about ceremonies, which obviously is one of the biggest parts of your wedding day and, you know, the reason why you're getting married. So It's a fun topic and there's so many things for us to talk about with this. So we have like a list of a billion things, but it kind of goes along with last week with the getting ready stuff, but
yeah, like, I mean, when you think about wedding, this ceremony is the part you think about. Like, that's the whole reason we're there. Like, that's the big meal deal of your wedding day. Of course, the rest of it's the fun stuff. And the ceremony, everyone thinks is like kind of like, you get the ceremony out of the way and then you start to have fun. But it really, like, the ceremony it is like your wedding. And so it is the most important part for you. Like, maybe not everybody else, but for you it is. So we're here to give you some good ideas on how to keep it running smoothly, because it is, I feel like, also one of the most stressful parts of everyone's day.
Oh, yeah. The amount of brides and grooms that have said to me after, like, oh, that's over. Now we can have fun.
Yeah.
Like, everyone gets so anxious about it.
No, and it shouldn't be stressful. I get how it is, though, because it's like you only get to do that once. And so you want it to be perfect. And you really, like, they can't control. That's the one part of the day that the bride and groom just, like, have to let go and let it be, because they're a part of it. Like, they can't really control that as much as they want to, I think.
Yeah, and there's so many nerves that go into it because you're trying to control everything.
Yeah.
And as wedding days go, something always happens. There's always, you know, once the wedding day comes, you just gotta let it all flow.
let it happen. Yeah. Well, so we're going to try and go over some stuff, like, because of how many ceremonies we've been to, we're just going to go over some stuff that, like, we think can help make your day go smooth, and just some things that maybe you've never thought about, because I think we have a cool perspective because we've been to so many, and we kind of get to see what works and what doesn't, and think about things that make it a little bit better. So I think the first thing to think about, start with your ceremony location. I think it really does, like, it sets the tone for your photos, your ceremony spot. Say you pick a public park. It could be beautiful and amazing, but if you pick something public versus a private area, you have to deal with a whole bunch of other aspects. So in terms of, like, listen, if you're at a public spot, might be there. You can't really control the fact that someone might be walking their dog behind you while you're saying your I-dos, which is like...
I can literally picture the wedding I did this summer where it was beautiful, awesome park, but during the first kiss, there was a guy walking behind with his dog.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. But it's just something
for Photoshop.
It's just something to think about. Like, if that's something you really don't want in your photos, maybe pick a private, like someone's private land or a venue,
for
right?
Sure. Yeah. And with location too, like, you also have to think of weather, lighting. Lighting is, like, the biggest one when it comes to location, because if it's an open field, that lighting is going to be a lot different than, like, big, huge trees where you have patchy lighting because the sun's coming through and you're making shadows on people's faces. Yeah. And that also gets into the time of day topic as well, but
well, before we get on to the time of day, I want to talk about I want to keep us on the location track, because I think time of day is so important, because I want to talk about it. But also too, when you're thinking about your ceremony location, right? Like, I personally, when I'm doing a wedding, especially if it's local, I try and, like, go out to their location for their ceremony, like, a few days before. Because lots of my clients ask me if I would be willing to, because I don't mind, because if I can come out there and help them pick a spot that's going to be beautiful, like, I will do that. But I always try and tell them, like, I'm going to come and look at your ideas at the same time of day that your wedding's going to be at. So like if their ceremony's at 2, I'll come scout a few days before at 2:00 in the afternoon instead of coming at like 6:00, because the lighting is going to look so much more different. So when you're thinking about your location, so it kind of does play into what you're talking about, like time of day. But like when you're thinking about your location and you like go look at all your spots, like if you have a day you drive around and look at all your areas, go the time of day that your ceremony is actually going to be at, because you're not going to get like an accurate representation of what it looks like if you go at 8:00 at night versus 2:00 in the afternoon. So that's like a good tip, I think, too. And then take some pictures like on your phone, even. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just see what it looks like.
And make sure someone's in the picture so you know what the lighting looks like on their face.
Yeah.
Even put your hand in front of it to like see, oh, the light's falling across the face. Maybe this won't work.
Yeah, like, and don't hesitate to like reach out to your photographer and ask them. Like maybe maybe me, maybe they'll come in and look at it with you and they'll help you figure out where the spot is. But I think just thinking about it can help you plan it out better instead of just deciding and not even like thinking about the light, what's in the background, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then one thing too, before we go on to the time of day, like, right, we kind of talked about it, but your location too. One thing that people don't think about, and I just want to like throw it out here, is if you're using a public area, like in a small town and stuff like that, it usually isn't a big deal. But especially like if you're in like a national park or something, usually you need permits.
Yes. That's a very good point.
So I just want to say for anybody planning like weddings, and even in cities too, like sometimes you do require like a special event permit. Like
especially in a park, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you're bringing tables and like an archway or whatever you're doing, I would definitely just make sure, like call your town, call somebody, like, and just see if it's like, it's better to check than not check. And then like,
you don't want a park guy coming in. Yeah.
No, you don't want to be like written up and getting a fine on your wedding day, right?
Could you imagine?
Especially in a national park.
Same for photographers.
Yeah. Also us, you make sure like you get your photographer that has like their proper licensing as well. But because you don't like, especially in a park, like they'll kick you out. If you're like setting something up in a national park, they'll say, get out of here. And then what are you supposed to do?
And you can't come back.
So just definitely that in mind, because you don't want to, I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want anybody to be in that situation. Like it's just, try and avoid it. At least do your research. Try as much as you can. Ask anybody. Ask it. Just do something. Just make sure. And that's another reason why like choosing maybe someone's land or private property is nice, because usually you don't need to get a permit. You just need permission from whoever's land it is, obviously. But
yeah, that's a hard thing too. I find a lot of brides have come to me, especially if you're in a city or a town. It's like, where do I have my ceremony? We don't have land or friends with land. Like, where in town? And it's such a hard thing, because if you're not getting married in a church, what do you have? Parks? Yeah. Maybe like some people get married in their reception venue, but that's kind of not ideal. Like if it's, you want it to be outside and pretty. So I think like other than parks, unless you're in an area with just ceremony venues or your venue just has that, it's really hard to find ceremony locations.
No, I totally agree with you. Like even here, because I'm in a small area, like we don't have that much, and usually most ceremonies are outside. Usually people maybe have a tent, or they just pray that it doesn't rain or whatever.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Backup plans for weather. Yeah. Like I've been honestly lucky for all my weddings. But
yeah, same. I haven't really had any like horror stories. Well, where's the
sometimes
wood?
You just
knock on wood, but
yeah, you back up the ceremony a bit and wait for the rain to pass, or you just. I've stood in the rain for a wedding before too.
Yeah,
like,
me too. Oh yeah. Yeah, like, but it all works out in the end, and it's the thing. Even if it doesn't work out, it's a story, and you're gonna think about it. So
it's a story, and there's always umbrellas. Like unless it's like a literal torrential downpour and it's coming at you sideways, like
what are you supposed to do? Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we are on to time of day.
This is honestly my biggest pet peeve with ceremonies, because it will completely make or break your photos and your videos. And like for us, if you arrive at a ceremony and there's trees and the groom and the groomsmen are in complete sun, the bride and the bridesmaid are in complete shade, we can shoot it and we can edit it, but it's not gonna look like it would if you turned your whole ceremony like not even 90 degrees, I guess 90 degrees, and
Yeah.
have the sun behind both of you, you know?
Well,
Makes
yeah,
such a
like
difference.
like going like our little tip before going and checking out wherever you want it to be and making sure that the light is
Yes.
what you like. Definitely like your tip there where you said like most of the time you can't get over the full sun thing because it's 2:00 in the afternoon, right? Like so it's
Yeah.
unless you're doing a later ceremony, there's no way to get over like how harsh it's gonna look unless it's a cloudy day. But like you said, if you like at least make both people be consistent and not have half of the group in shade, half of the group in sun. Like it's just a huge contrast that like when we look at it with our eyes, it looks a lot more normal because we're seeing it in real life. But when you translate it into picture form, it's just a lot harsher on your eyes to look at. So yeah, like just thinking about that, or even just finding a shady spot that everybody's able to be in the shade, right? Like something like that.
Which is sometimes hard at 2:00, but even, and that's the thing too, when you try and do that, it's almost easier just to have everyone in open sun sometimes because then everyone has the same light. If you have a bit of shade, but then like a little bit, like one person's in the bright light, that person's going to be white and the rest of you are normal. How do you explain that in not photographer terms?
Well, no, it's also not like, think about yourself standing in the sun for like a good half an hour straight. It's also not what you want to be doing. You're either you're the bride and you're wearing a huge wedding dress, it's going to be hot, or you're the groom and you're wearing a huge suit. It's going to be hot either way. So whoever's stuck in the sun is not going to be enjoying themselves as much. And the other person, if you think about what, like if they're in the shade and they're facing the sun, their eyes are still staring right into that sun. So it's just not
exactly.
Yeah, you just want to get some feelers out there, you know?
Yeah. And this kind of goes into a topic that we talked about the other week with wedding trends. It's evening ceremonies.
Yeah.
That's why evening ceremonies can be so nice, because when the sun is down in the horizon and is placed behind you guys, the most beautiful lighting, the most beautiful like golden hour, and
every photographer's dream, pretty much.
Every photographer's dream. And then people aren't like looking into the direct sun. They're not squinting. They're not, you know.
Another thing that I like about that too is after the ceremony's over, because you have it so late in the day and most of your pictures are usually planned for before your ceremony. There's no downtime for your guests after your ceremony. You guys go right into your dinner, and it's like just a nice seamless transition, which is really nice as well. So it's kind of a nice way to like.
And you can just join your guests. Like usually you have your ceremony and then you're like, you don't even, like a lot of couples won't even say hi to their guests because they're like, nope, we got to go. We only have 2 hours for pictures. We're out of here. And then you enter your hall and then boom, the rest of your night's over, you know? So this gives you an opportunity to slowly merge from that into
I think it's
reception.
a cool way to do it, and I think more people should at least think about it. It's definitely fun. One thing we didn't talk about, while we're just kind of still on the topic of like time of day, ceremony, location stuff, one thing we didn't talk about when it's so important, we both, I know, talk about this religiously all the time. So everybody thinks about what your background of your ceremony looks like when people are staring at you guys up at the altar, right? Everyone thinks about, like, what do I want the background to be? Everyone's so focused on that. But think about, so let's just stop for a second. Your ceremony is you walking up the aisle, you standing at the aisle, and then you coming back down the aisle, right? Like that's usually how the flow of it. No one thinks about what the background of your aisle looks like. So when you think about your photos, so it's something that's very common, and it's fair because I mean, if you're not going to all these weddings, that's something you're not going to think about, and it's fair enough.
No.
And
you think about the main attraction of the ceremony is looking out the full ceremony, not when people are coming down the aisle.
So think about that picture perfect picture in your head that every bride wants. They all want that picture of their dad walking them down the aisle, and they're crying because they see their groom and he's crying. But let's just picture that picture, that perfect picture. We're going to picture that in our head. What do you see in the background? Nothing usually, right? Because it's beautiful. We're not worried about the background because we were focused on the bride. But what happens when you don't think about the background and all the camping trailers are back there?
Yeah.
What happens is instead of your picture perfect moment that you want, it's a little bit of a distraction to see all of that in the background.
Totally.
I think it's just something that people forget and put on the back burner. But it's my biggest tip, I think. our biggest tip. Honestly, I think it might be one of the most, other than like the rest of your ceremony, like where you are. But like, I think just thinking about what that looks like. And I know sometimes you really can't control it, but if you can, I think it's worth it.
And so many people just don't think of that. But yeah, think of that money shot. You with your mom and dad or whoever's walking you down the aisle. Like, what do you want in the background? Do you want like a big red truck back there? Or like you said, campers? Or maybe like an outhouse? Like,
yeah, we don't want an outhouse.
What's going to be back there?
Please,
no. But another thing too is I feel like some people also don't think of the main view and trees and lighting. Like I've had ceremonies where they set up the most beautiful ceremony like view, but it's fall and the one day it's perfect. And then that night the wind comes up and all the leaves fall down and you can see everything behind those trees. And then you see the big red truck that's parked behind those trees.
Yes.
And that's all you can see in all your photos. So that's another thing to think of. Yeah.
Another reminder, just make sure you're looking at your location around the same time you're getting married, around the same time, and thinking about like not just the one view, the 360 view.
And it is 360 because it's not just like the front view and the aisle view, it's also the sides because we shoot like the guests, we shoot like, you know, when the bride is getting passed off to the groom, we shoot that from the side. So you don't only have to think the front and back, you have to think of the side views.
Yeah. Think about like the pictures we're trying to take of your mom and dad crying in the front row from the side. Yeah. But yeah, if there's campers in the background, which like I said, there's lots of times where you really can't avoid that and that's fine. Yeah. But like if it's something that you're worried about that you don't want in your photos, like obviously we can Photoshop. There's things we can do, but there comes to be a certain point where you can't Photoshop 10 trailers out of a whole background because of the way it blurs.
And in every single photo, like that's a lot of,
There's definitely stuff that we can remove. Yeah, it's not, like it's doable, but it's a lot of work and most people, like basic
most photographers won't do it.
That wedding photographers do. Like I will remove distractions, but there's a point, right? Like I'm not going to remove a whole background because there's like 10 trailers in the back. So that's definitely... I don't know. I'm glad we started with those ones because I think that they're like the biggest ones that like really set the mood. And
it's so frustrating for photographers to see it because you're shooting and you're like, I just want to go move all those trailers. I know. And us photographers, we would go and move them all ourselves. But
I wish. I am not great at hauling a trailer, so you don't want me anywhere.
Yeah, I would not know anything about that, but
you might have an insurance claim or 5. Do not do it. Don't make me do it.
Yeah.
But we're kind of on the topic of things that make your wedding photos better right now. So I think let's just keep ourselves on that trend. Another thing that I find, and like when it's happening in the moment, us as photographers, it's really hard to like change this from happening. As much as I like try sometimes, it's easier to kind of think about it beforehand and have a plan to change this. So just another thing to think about. But obviously, usually when there's a wedding, you usually reserve like either the front row or the front 2 rows for your immediate family and your friends, right? Like that's very common because you want them to have the best view. But what happens, I've seen this, I see it, most weddings I see this, I feel like.
I think every wedding this happens.
Yeah. So usually you reserve the first 2 rows and maybe you only have 5 immediate family members or 5 or 10 or whatever. And then you have a whole 1 or 2 rows completely empty in the front of your aisle because your guests usually they try and sit near the back because they don't want to be in the family area, which is totally fine. Like no one wants to steal those spots. But I think what happens is everyone sits down, everyone's done, like they're getting ready for the ceremony, and then there's 2 big blocks of empty space in the front of your ceremony because no one's sitting there, no one wants to creep up, and it's not like your family is in their spots they need to be, but it's almost like you block off too much room when you don't need to. And then it almost leaves like a big negative space in the middle of your ceremony, which when you're taking photos, it's usually pretty visible when we're taking photos of like your big ceremony, like the big shot where you can see everybody and like the whole location and everything like that. Usually it's pretty visible. And I find if you can squish everybody, it just looks like it just looks full and it doesn't look like there's like you don't want your wedding photos to look like half of your family didn't show up. Even if they didn't, we just don't want we don't want them to look like that, right?
No, exactly. Yeah. And no one's going to notice if the back 2 benches are empty. They're going to notice if the front, like the second and third row are empty.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, oh, that's weird. Like, did a family not come? Like, what happened here?
Right? Even if, and I think usually what happens is people just block off too many seats for how many people they actually need, right?
Yes. And I wonder why, because you know who's coming to your wedding. So I feel like it's doable to say, like, I have like 5 of my immediate family and my grandpa and grandma, he has blah, 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 and then have that many seats, right? But it's always, every wedding, it seems that there's empty space up there, and then the officiant's trying to get people to move up. And
well, listen, most of the times the officiants at my weddings I do, they don't usually say that, like, move up. But I think if you can have your officiant say, hey, everybody, if you see an empty seat in front of you, squeeze up a little bit. We want everyone to be comfy and cozy. There's like a nice way of saying it without saying everybody move. Like, move out the way.
Oh, yeah. If you have a fun person, usually, like, you have someone good that's up there. Like, they can make it, you know, come, let's get cozy. Everyone scooch up. Yeah.
Even if it's your not your mom, because she'll be like with you before you walk down the aisle, but like a close family member.
Your outgoing cousin.
Yes, your outgoing cousin. Yeah. Get them on to say, listen, this is your one job. You make sure everybody is as close as they can be. We don't want any empty spaces. And they're like, okay, we got it. This is your wedding gift. I will do this for you. And like, they're proud and they're happy.
So another big thing that really can make or break your ceremony is your officiant. Whether you have, you know, like, a lot of people just look up on Google your local officiants and bring them. And obviously that's a good, easy option, but it's not very personal. And if you are if you're a photographer or you're in the age group of people that are going to weddings every weekend, you know, they have the same script for every couple typically, which is fine. Like, you're getting married, you're getting the job done. But I don't know. I think it's really nice when you can have someone that will tell your story, make it personal, even, like, especially if you know that person. It makes it so much more intimate and enjoyable for your guests, because if they're sitting there and it's the same lady that they've been to 10 other weddings with, and she's saying the same speech, she does it every wedding, you know, it gets a little redundant and same thing over and over again.
Well, even like, I think even having, if you have no choice but to have the same person, like, it is what it is, but just having a conversation with them and saying, like, look, like, we don't want the traditional speech. Like, is there any way that you can spice it up a little bit for us and make it more us? And then maybe they'll have ideas. Like, I'm not an officiant, so I'm not sure, but I'm sure that they have ideas on things that.
And even if you have to write something out for them, or like get a friend of yours to write something out, or even, I know some people, some officiants will let you have like a family friend or something do the main part of the ceremony, and they do like the legal part.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Because it depends what province you're in, but some provinces don't allow just anyone to get, like, I know some you can do like a weekend course and get ordained or whatever it's called, but some provinces don't allow that. So that's a good option if you can find someone that is willing to let you have someone else come up and do the main part.
That's a good idea.
And then they just do the legal vows that you have to say or whatever.
That's a good idea. Like, and another thing too, like, just make sure you like your officiant. Yes. Like, you don't want to be married by somebody that you really don't like mesh with. So make sure you meet with them, or at least have like a phone call with them, and make sure that like you guys are kind of on the same vibe.
Because I've seen weddings where it's not the same vibe, and it's like,
yeah. I've had a few weddings where like there was a mix up, the officiant mixed stuff up or whatever, or like they almost didn't show up because they thought they had the wrong day.
Well, because sometimes they do multiple in a day.
Yeah. And
so they could have the wrong couple, or
listen, obviously mistakes happen. Yeah. So like, I'm not here to say like I've never made a mistake, because
no.
But like, just make sure you're picking somebody reputable that you trust, that you like, that it's gonna do a good job for you. And also, I know you talked about it a little bit, but your officiant does not need to be somebody that you find online, because like you said, in certain places it can be a friend that does it. Like, if you have somebody that you want to marry you, I love that. Like, I've done a few weddings where it's like been the bride's dad, and it's just like so touching.
Oh, it's so special.
Yeah.
And it makes it like, and some people say like, oh, we'll just get someone we find on Google because it's short and sweet. But even a family member can make it short and sweet.
Yeah.
They can just like, even if they say like the little quotes or whatever, it just makes it like so much more special that you can say, this person married us. And like most people have that outgoing person in their life that would get up there and do it and love every second of it. Like, don't ask someone that's not comfortable, but
Listen, I like low key sometimes think I'm like, man, it'd be so fun to just like be a minister of the peace, like whatever they're called,
yes.
and be an officiant. But like then I think, okay, I'm already doing weddings every weekend, so the weekends that I'm not booked, I'll be booked as an officiant. So I'm still gonna be at weddings. Like I'm like, okay, this is too much.
Okay, I have an idea for this. This is our retirement plan.
Ooh, oh
when
my God.
we're done,
Sarah.
Yes, I know. I literally have thought about this.
That's so. Oh my God, I can't wait.
When we're like we're broken because we've been shooting weddings for 20, 30 years. We're going to be like, we still want to be in weddings. We still want to be a part of it. So we're going to be officiants.
Oh my God, I'm like getting shivers because I feel like this is so cute. I love this.
Because we know how it works. We know the game plan. We've been in the industry. I think it's like the perfect career shift for photographers is to do that, because I was in a wedding in Waskesiu at Elkridge, and the lady that was the, what do you call it, justice of peace?
The officiant. Yeah, I think it was justice
officiant.
of peace. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the officiant was just the cutest, spunkiest, like older lady. She was retired. She lived at Elkridge. She had a house there. And she was just like the coolest lady and was like, yeah, I'm retired, but I need something to do on the weekends, so I do this.
Those are my favorite officiants. Like there's a few ladies like that around here, and I see them every few weekends, and I'm like, hey girl, what's up?
Yeah. And those ones, like, they do it because they love it.
Yeah.
And they make it personal. Like this lady, like, it was a kind of a destination wedding, I guess, because it wasn't where the couple was from. But she would do Zooms with them and say, like, tell me about yourself. And then she would write out her thing, incorporate it in. Oh, she was amazing. So, and I was like, I want to do this when I grow up.
Okay, Sarah. That is so smart. Right? Okay, let's write it up.
This is our retirement plan. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I am a fan. So another thing too, and this is kind of, I guess not really doesn't really tie into like what your officiant does, but let's talk about your vows and how they can kind of impact your ceremony, because you have the choice to just do traditional vows that your officiant like writes out for you, and then you repeat it back to them. And that's usually what people do. Yeah. And then you also have the choice to do your personal vows. I personally love it when people choose to do personal vows, because it brings that little bit of personality into their ceremony, and it's not just cookie cutter ceremony. I know it scares a lot of people because it's like you're bearing your soul to like all of your people, right? Yes.
And public speaking, because part of your ceremony that's scary for a lot of people to begin with is just public speaking, even if it is, I, Sarah Thorpe, take blah, 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 to like that part of it makes people anxious. So doing a whole speech and like being vulnerable, like you said, and like, you know, confessing your love to your partner, that's a little scary. So I completely understand, but it makes it like, and that's what your guests are there for. Like, no offense, but they're there to hear those vows, and like
they want the tea.
Yeah, and they want to be reminded, like, okay, why am I at this wedding? Why are these people getting married? What do they love about each other? Yeah. Because for the most part, like, even your parents and your siblings, like, do they really know what you love about your significant other? Maybe. I don't know. Right? So, like...
Yeah. Well, that's the part everyone cries at. That's the part your mom's going to be crying. You're going to be crying. We're going to be crying as your photographers. Like, if you really love the idea of personal vows, but you don't want to bare your soul in front of your whole guest list, think about doing your personal vows. Either maybe like before your ceremony, if you do a first look, maybe say a few words to each other there that you have written out so you can still have that personal moment together without all the people, or do them later when you're doing your pictures, like when you're doing your portraits, like just take a second to say, hey, like let's sit and let's just talk. Like your photographer shouldn't be upset that you want to do that. They should be stoked because it's usually a beautiful moment.
The photographers live for those moments because they're the
We
only
do.
ones that get to listen. So we're like, haha.
But I think it really does, like, doing something
Yes.
personal like that versus just doing the cookie cutter, like, just repeat back after me. It gives you something, like, you have your vows forever if you decide to keep them. Gives you something to look back on. It just adds, it gives you more memories to think back on. And I think that that's why we're getting married, like, in the first place, right? So just think about that.
And I can think of two different scenarios. The one, Jordan was second shooting with me, and they didn't do a first look. Their first look was down the aisle, but they did a first touch, which can sound so like cheesy and corny, but like it was the most beautiful thing because they were at like a corner of a house and they were both on one side of the corner and they were holding hands in the middle and they did their vows. And it's just like, I think just like you haven't, like some couples spend the night together before, but like you haven't seen them all day. You're just holding their hand. You're hearing their voice, like the emotion in that. I don't know. It's so beautiful. That's like one of my favorite things.
Also, it gives you a chance to, like, I personally, like, I feel like if it was me and it was in that moment, I feel like that would calm me down. Like, just sitting there for a second, not even necessarily saying anything. You guys could just hold hands, but like not necessarily doing anything, but just letting yourselves touch each other and like feeling each other's energy. That would, like, I feel like for a lot of people, those nerves, that would help calm them. So that's definitely like something to think about too.
And that is a reason why a lot of people do the first looks, because part of the nerves obviously is like, you're up there, you're in front of everyone, it's scary, but also like seeing your bride or your groom, like the butterflies and the excitement of that, like that's part of the nerves. So that's why a lot of people will do the first look, because they're like, woof, the stress is gone. Like they don't even care about the ceremony anymore because they saw. But I personally am still a sucker for first look down the aisle. As nice as it is to do the first look beforehand and do pictures, I don't know, there's still something as a photographer that every time there's a first look down the aisle, I get like goosebumps, I cry, like it's so good. Yeah.
Oh my God, I know. Me too. Another one of the parts of the day that I cry like 60 times a day, but
I know. You get used to it, but like you don't.
It just gets worse, I think, because you keep going to beautiful weddings and they just keep getting more beautiful and beautiful.
You get softer and softer.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I think another thing too that it's kind of on the back burner for a lot of people, they don't really think about it, but I think it does make a big impact on your ceremony itself, is your music / your DJ, like how those two things intertwine. I feel like there's a
big thing.
Yeah, there's a few things we can talk about on this topic, but again, we talked about this in another episode, but usually if you have a great DJ, people don't notice, but if you have a bad DJ, they will notice. So I feel like it's a little bit the same.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit the same here. Yeah. And like there are some people that don't have DJs for their ceremony. They just have a speaker or whatever it is. So you don't have the opportunity, but some people do.
Yeah. But if you can, I would always recommend getting a DJ because they can transition music, and if things don't go to plan, they can make it work. It's not like someone's hitting back on an iPhone and it's like the song just restarts. They can like fade into the next song. And
if you have the opportunity to have the DJ come, even if it's like part of the package where they come for like an hour of your ceremony and then the rest of the night is at the dinner or whatever. But I think it does make it seamless. You don't have to entrust somebody in your family to be the DJ, which is nice. It makes their job a little bit easier and they're not worried about screwing up your music. And
totally. That's a lot of pressure on someone because that's a huge job just for your average pal to
right,
take
like
on.
Just and as well, like they are going to make sure that the microphones aren't screeching. They're going to make sure that the music's not too loud or too quiet. They're going to make sure if there's a problem, they'll come fix it for you. Like, God forbid, like a mic cuts out, sure. Like for some reason, like it happens. Mics cut out all the time.
They have a backup.
They either have a backup or they'll come fix it because they know what they're working with. But if you listen, if I'm trying to learn new technology that I don't know, it's hard. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to
for sure
to figure it out on the fly. So if you like have someone just helping you out, like usually it's great until it's not, and then no one knows how to fix it.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of just goes back to the topic of hiring professionals.
Yeah.
Same thing if you hire your cousin that has a camera, something goes wrong, they're probably not going to know what to do. Same thing with a DJ, Yeah. That's why we're trained and we're experts in our field.
Listen, this is the thing. You pay good money. Like, it's not like you're paying just a tiny chunk of change. You're paying us a big chunk of change for most people. And it's not just for us to take pictures. Like, you're paying me, like, so that if we're taking great pictures and something happens, I know how to fix it. You're paying me for all the posing. You're paying me for all that stuff in here that no one really thinks about, right? And it's the same with the DJ. It's the same. Yeah.
Like, they have the background knowledge. They have the equipment. They have the backups. They have everything. You're hiring a professional. And, like, I'm not saying, like, if you want to hire your cousin that has a nice camera, I don't care. Do you. But you just have to know the risks.
Yeah.
Same with, like, doing DJing on your own.
Mm-hmm.
If you have your, like, second cousin with an iPhone and a speaker and, people are coming down the aisle a little bit faster than usual, because that's usually what happens. People are nervous and they don't go at the pace that you plan. So you're 2 songs ahead. And they have to completely restart the song. The DJ knows, I'm going to loop back on this song or whatever it is they do.
Oh my God. One thing that I want to talk about is just flew into my head. So something that, like, I think, again, it's no one thinks about it, but if you have a DJ, usually they think about it. Background music. Like, okay, the amount of times either I go to a dance or I go to the ceremony or even just like out in public and I'm not at a wedding or whatever. And like, you have a crowd of people and they're waiting for an event to start or whatever it is. And I'm like, what's missing? I'm like standing there and I'm like, I just hear people talking, like, what's missing?
Awkward,
And I'm like, the music. Like, it does, honestly, it does change the vibe. If you have like some nice music playing in the background and a DJ is on it and they're like, they're reading the room, they're not playing screamo, they're not just on shuffle playing whatever. They have like a nice little romantic.
They know the vibe. They know
It does set the mood. Your guests arrive and there's music to greet them. They know where to go. And it just kind of, it sets the mood. And I think it's another nice little reason to just think about music. And while we're talking about music and how that changes your mood of your ceremony, let's talk about like the music for the certain parts of your day. Like, or not your day, sorry, the certain parts of your ceremony. So usually you pick out a few songs, right? So you pick out the song that the groomsmen walk down to. You pick up the song that the bridesmaids walk down to. You pick out the song that you walk down to as the bride. And then you pick the song for when you're signing your papers. And then you pick a song for when you walk back up the aisle, right? Like, that's like 6, I think, or whatever I said. 6. But I think this is something that people like don't think about until like the day before their wedding. I don't know. I feel like it's very common to not think about it. But I think, again, like I said, it sets the mood for your wedding. If you like, I just want to use this example. And listen, I'm not saying, okay, you're gonna laugh at the song I have in my head. Okay.
Oh God, I'm scared.
So like, let's say you're a very like folky, like country westerny girl. Your vibe is like Tyler Childers or Childers. Oh God. Oh no. Which one's right? Everyone's going to roast me. I'm sorry. I think it's Childers.
I always say, I think it's Childers, but I say Childers.
I think it's Childers. Anyways. Okay. The moral of this story is, okay, so say that's your vibe and you're more like, you're into that folky country western music. Do you want Pitbull to be playing on the background of your ceremony? No, obviously, first of all, we're not playing Pitbull at your ceremony. It's just the first thing that popped
into
Nelly,
but not Pitbull.
It popped into my head, and I don't know. I just couldn't get it out. But so, like, I think about that. So when you're picking your songs, don't just pick, don't just look up. Well, I mean, you can do this if you want, but I think a lot of people just look up, oh, this is the common song for when they walk down the aisle, and this is the common song for walking back up, and they just pick whatever. But I think it should match your personalities. I think it should, because it's
totally.
It's your ceremony. So like pick your favorite Zach Bryan song. Pick your favorite Tyler Childers song when you walk back up, but like definitely
pick your favorite Beyonce song.
Not single ladies, because
Taylor
we're not
Swift.
single anymore. But
I don't know, that could be a little plot twist on your
honestly, I can't remember, like, I honestly though, I always love it when there's a funky song that comes on. I'm like,
yes,
literally I'm taking pictures and I hear it and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, I vibe with it.
I've seen some really cool, like, unique, like the guys walking down especially, and like I feel like your music, it sets the mood. If you want people to cry, your song is what's going to make them cry.
That's true.
If it's a song that like is not, if people are sitting there like, oh, the meaning of the song is about a breakup or a divorce and it's not actually about love and like it's awkward, or like you really need to figure out the song and what it means. And like there's certain songs that just like make people emotional more than others.
Any song off Grey's Anatomy.
Like every time I hear My Little Girl by Tim McGraw, I bawl. And you hear it at every second wedding, but it always makes me cry.
Okay, think about this. You know what show always makes me cry? Grey's Anatomy. Every single episode. You know why it makes me cry? Because they play like Sleeping at Last, like that band that plays. They play all the like I'm gonna get emotional just thinking but like they set the mood with the music. It's like that's what they want you to feel. So that's why they put that song in there. It's very intentional. And I think that if you're trying to set the mood for your wedding, this, like, obviously you are, because you're planning it the way you want it to. It's definitely something to think about.
For sure.
Think about some funky songs. Think about like if you want it to be fun.
You don't realize how much music affects things.
Yeah.
Especially like we're kind of jumping categories here, but like your reception too. Your DJ can read the room. They can, figure things out. And even like your ceremony, your guests are coming in, they're finding their place in the ceremony. And they're like, they won't play, because you will give him like the 6 songs you picked out for your ceremony, but they're going to be playing like music in your genre. And like people are just going to be vibing, sitting down, chatting, doing their thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to do that in silence. It's awkward.
Yeah.
But music just kind of lets things like ease, like it kind of moves you into the next,
Also, even for your ceremony, I feel like with you talking about it being awkward, I guess, but like there's less awkward moments if there's music playing, because people don't notice that they're happening, but they notice it if there's no music to like distract them that the awkward moment is happening.
Yeah. It's like a good mediator.
Yeah.
Like it gives like a little something in between. Like it's like that background noise.
Yeah.
And you might not even notice really all the time. Like think of like going to a wedding dance. The loud music. Like sometimes you don't even notice what's playing, but it's the loud music and the environment that you're feeling, and
Another thing that I love to talk about, because it's like the very iconic moment where you kiss. Obviously, okay, well, first kiss. Let's talk about that, because I feel like that's one thing that like so important. Obviously, like that's that iconic photo that you want. My hottest tip, my biggest tip, which is probably the same as you: kiss for longer than you think you need to. Kiss for like 10 seconds.
Yes.
Like, I don't even care. I don't care if you breathe.
And you don't have to make out. There doesn't have to be any open mouth action. We love a good peck, but just like hold it. Yeah. And if you like want to pull away, laugh, go back into it, that's perfect. But like when it's like the little, like, you probably, if you're on video, you can see what I just did. But especially for photo and video, when you like, obviously in video, you want that like long in, long out. For photo, it's easier to like quickly, your shutter is quick and get it. But even then, like, do you want to risk your photography? I've never missed a first kiss, like, knock on wood. No. But
actually, I have once, but I had a second shooter and she got it.
Which is why you have a second shooter.
So it was all good in the hood. That's why you have a second shooter. Thank God. God bless Caitlin.
Yes. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but
it was probably a peck.
It was a peck. It was. And honestly, my camera just malfunctioned in the moment, which is like the scariest thing that could ever happen. But she got it, which is why I have her there.
Yeah.
And it just froze up for a second.
But like that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
I've had a camera overheat during a ceremony, and I had to like put it under my shirt and then hold, because that's what we always like. Jordan and I both have 2 cameras on at all times. Grabbed my other camera because it said like camera overheating because it was plus 40 in BC. Like it was a super hot day, no wind. Put my camera under my armpit, trying to cool it off. Used my other one, got the first kiss. But like it was right in that moment when they were about to do the first kiss. And it was like overheating. And then I put it under my armpit and was like, grab my other one. Oh,
scares me.
Those moments are terrifying. But I had a second shooter. I had 2 cameras.
Yeah, right? We know what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, like definitely make sure you kiss for, I mean, yeah, like Sarah said, even if you're just holding on to each other and like cuddling up or just being cute. Because listen, everybody wants to cheer for you, first of all. They want to like celebrate you because that's like the iconic moment. Yeah. And then you get your little moment and you get all the beautiful photos for it. So just
take it in.
Yeah, we don't want to miss it for you. So that's all. That's my
yeah.
And then another part too that's very iconic is when you walk back up the aisle and you're finally married, right?
Yes.
I always love when people do something cute as they walk up the aisle instead of just running away from everybody.
Like you could do a dip, you could do a kiss, you could do confetti, you can do, I don't know. And like, don't run, walk.
I try and always, when I have my like phone consultations the week before their wedding, I always try and say, hey, I might yell at you to like kiss in the middle of the aisle. Like I might, like usually I do, like if they're not doing anything, I'll be like, kiss, kiss again. And I'll be like, I'll hold my cameras and I'll be like, you guys like, I'll be like doing something weird to try and, not like I'm like trying to be a weirdo. I'm just like trying to do the motion of like it's just me. So I can't like kiss somebody, but like I'm always like, like kiss and then I go like this or something.
Because you forget too, like a lot of people will forget like, and it's such a thing for people to know, like you do a kiss halfway down the aisle. Like it's a big trend right now. But like you're in the moment, you forget everything, you know? So your photographer's yelling at you, flapping their arms.
I would like die. I'd go to photographer heaven if like a groom like picked up his bride, like a fireman carried her out, that I would literally pass away. Like I would
That'd be so good.
And then they run off. I would like literally I'd pass away. I'd be crying. I'd be cheering. I'd be like doing all of the above.
Yeah. all the things.
Yeah. But I definitely think like just think about that part too. Like there's definitely ways you can spice it up, like Sarah said, like with confetti. Obviously that doesn't work all the times that you want it to work. Confetti is beautiful. Listen, confetti is beautiful if it works properly.
Yeah.
But Sarah's gonna
The thing with confetti is you're putting the event of the confetti into the hands of all your guests. And they don't always understand when to, like I've had grandmas shoot confetti cans in the middle of the ceremony. And
please tell me you go. Okay, wait, stop.
All of a sudden there was an explosion and everyone's like, what just happened?
Please tell me you got a picture of grandma like freaking out with the confetti just like.
Well, I got the picture of everyone at the front and they look, their eyes beam to the side like, what just happened? There's an explosion
That's actually
in the crowd. Because I think she was just sitting there trying to like probably figure out like, oh, this is how I do it, and then she twisted it or whatever and it just like and then she like stuck it down towards the ground to like aim it in the right place.
I love her though. That's so hilarious.
Yeah. So like I've seen the actual cannons where like it explodes and shoots off, and then I've also seen like one couple just had like cute little, they almost looked like ice cream cone cups full of confetti, and then they just like threw them into the air. But they're really hard to make perfect. One, because you have to make sure everyone's on the same page and knows when to do them. Because if one goes off and then 5 go off, like, you know, you have to make them all go at the same time. Yeah. And the lighting also affects that. If the lighting's in the wrong place, it's going to look kind of funky, you know? It's really hard to get that shot perfect.
I think the best thing you could do if that's what you like, if that's your dream and that's what you want. I think it definitely has to be staged, and I don't mean like faked, but I think staged. What I mean by staged is you need to make sure your officiant knows what you want to do. Because listen, I've seen it a few times where I've had it at a few of my weddings where they wanted to do that, but no one told the guests what to do. So they had the the cannons ready, or like whatever ready, like the flower petals ready, but then no one knew when to throw them. So no one threw them as they were coming down, and then it was kind of a waste. So I think if that's what you wanted, I think if that's what you want to do, it's almost like you have to kind of like let everybody know, like let your photographer know, let your officiant know. And I think your officiant almost has to announce it and say, okay, as the bride and we're going to count down 1, 2, 3. And then they like throw it all together or something.
And even then it gets like, I don't know, something always happens. But that's a thing where if you're so like set on that, maybe that's a pose we recreate with the bridal party when we're doing portraits, you know? Like maybe we should do something like that in another way, because I feel like it could also wreck your moment of coming back down the aisle if you're so focused on the confetti and it doesn't work. That's like a moment. That's not something you recreate. Yeah. It happens and it's done. So yeah, I think that's the hard part of that is like, if it goes wrong, then your moment's gone. Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, I think just figure out what's important. And then, let's go from there. But
for sure. So, my kind of hot take was a meh on the Canon, like confetti-ness.
Yes.
Just because it's a hard, I won't get into it again, but it's a hard thing to make perfect. But, Jordan, do you have any hot takes?
I do. And I think it is a pretty spicy take. Okay, so my hot take, I need to know, why do we have to sign the marriage license right immediately after the first kiss in the middle of the ceremony? Like, is there not a way that we can do that a different part of the day? Like, this is my hot take because I think that when you go to sign the papers, obviously you're getting married and like that's making it official, and I know that. But I don't understand why it has to happen in the middle of your ceremony, because it's always like a lull. Like when you're walking over to sign your papers, everyone's just like kind of standing there watching. You're standing there awkward. Your witnesses are standing there awkward. I just want to know why we have to do it during the ceremony. Like, can we do it a different part of the day?
Like, do you think it's a legal thing?
No, I don't know. Maybe we should have looked it up.
Because I know like part of like the like your vows that the officiant makes you say, like part of it's a legal thing, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like you have to legally say it. So maybe right after you have to sign it, because I've done like ceremonies where the like legal officiant, like with the couple, we did a first look and then we went and they did like the legal vows and then signed, and then we went to the ceremony with everyone and they had like an auntie officiating and like they did a fake signing and vows. So maybe it's a legal thing that they have to.
Yeah, let us know.
The thing is they didn't have to do a fake signing.
Listeners, please tell us, because we should have Googled this probably, but.
And I guess like maybe part of it too is that maybe you forget otherwise.
Well, no, what about signing them right before you do the ceremony?
But do you have to be together or something?
I don't know. Or like,
I'm playing the devil's advocate here.
Or like, why can't we do them? Like, why can't you walk up the aisle again? Your officiant follows you because they don't need to be standing up there anymore or whatever. And then you do them after. Like because I don't understand why we have to like, it just seems like a very like abrupt stop to the ceremony. And then you go do that. And then everyone comes back and they're like, all right, let's go again. I don't know.
And I guess it kind of plays into tradition, but I have a funny story about signing.
Okay. What?
So last summer I had a wedding where, you know, like everyone's nervous and they're exciting. And I'm sure like the officiant also is like feeling all the butterflies. So they're signing. And I can't forget, who goes first? Is it the bride and groom or is it the best man maid of honor?
Bride and groom.
Okay, so the bride and groom are signing. And the bride signs, the groom signs, and like the officiant points like, this is your place, this is your place. And then the best man signs. And he looked at the officiant, he was like, here? And he was like, yeah, no, like right there. That's where you sign.
I know,
was
I'm
like,
already
okay.
stressed out.
So then he signs, and then the maid of honor signs, and they go back, and the best man's kind of giggling and kind of like, what just happened? And then they walk back. And you know how like after the ceremony, everyone has like walked back, and everyone like the bridal party kind of like, you know,
oh no.
is like, congrats, whatever. They're all killing themselves laughing because the best man just legally married the bride.
I knew it.
Because the officiant told him the wrong place to sign. And he was like, he looked and he was like, are you sure? Like, this is the right place? And the officiant was like, yeah, no, yeah. He was like, okay.
Oh
So,
my God.
Yeah. Best man technically married the officiant, went and like reprinted it, blah, blah, blah.
That is so funny. That's another reason why we should not do it during the ceremony, because if you did it someone at a different time, you would clarify. It would not be stressful, and we would not have that whole mess. Now they have to get a divorce.
No weird marriages going on. Yeah.
Now they have to get a divorce so that they can actually get married again.
I just married your best friend.
Scandal.
Yeah, literally.
Oh
it was so
God.
funny though, because they just thought, and then we did a couple like cute pics of the bride and the best man pretending they just got married. And
That is so funny. I'm dead.
good thing they were like easygoing people, because I don't know, maybe people would get
Yeah.
salty about
Oh
that,
my
but it was pretty
God.
funny.
I
Yeah.
love that. Frick. That's so funny.
Yeah. But I think for the most part, like, we kind of covered ceremonies. Like, make sure that you look over your location, DJ, officiant. Make sure you don't marry the best man.
Yeah, be careful. Be careful out there. I thought you were going to say that.
You never know.
I thought you were going to say that the best man and the maid of honor got married instead of the bride and groom.
Oh, that could have been cute. That could have been like a little like matchmaker situation.
And then can you imagine they get together and that's their like beautiful love story? Oh my God.
And I think they were both single too. Like, it could
Maybe that's what he was trying to do. Maybe he was just trying to hook them up.
Maybe there was like an alter, you know, something else going on there.
Funny. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I think that that's a whole bunch of like information to like digest. So you can definitely listen to it a few times if you need.
Hopefully we didn't overwhelm anyone listening to this, because
No, and listen, like again, as a reminder, like everything we say too, like this is our like opinions just from going to weddings and stuff. Obviously, like you don't have to listen to us.
no. And you can make most things work. Like, if your cousin is your DJ, your wedding will still happen. It'll still be fine. Like, it may not be as smooth, and
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Oh, I know.
They're just suggestions.
Just suggestions, just things we've noticed from going to so many, and we want you guys to have the best ceremony ever. So like, really, it's coming from a place of love.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. I don't
Amazing.
know.
Well, I think that was a good little vibe. And next up, like, we're doing the series kind of like plopping them in here and there, but what happens after the ceremony? Portraits.
Yeah, next time we're gonna give you all the hot tips on how to make your portraits the best they can be, which I think that's gonna be a fun one for us, because that's like our jam.
That might be the longest one.
It probably will be. We can just talk about it forever.
Yeah.
But
literally. Well, yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.
goodbye.
Bye.